Good evening, folks. So I'm just going to do my weekly outlook on GJ and just kind of go through from the monthly down to the 4 hour and just kind of give an idea as to what I'm sort of looking out for, what levels I'm paying attention to, and potentially clean areas where I can look for trading opportunities. So we're 2 weeks into the month of May. We are bearish at the moment. The monthly candle, of course, is still open. Just key things from this month is we've broke the low of the previous month. But we have rejected the resistance zone of the sort of previous range area from a monthly time frame, and we've now broke out. So is this potentially just a pullback to find some sort of support to then push up, and that'll complete our triangle, and then we could look to potentially test the fill the previous month's wick, and then of course higher time frame continuation. There is this sort of clean area here. Is there a possibility that we could maybe mirror that? Now that's thinking very long term. Of course we are looking at the monthly chart here, but that's sort of what I'm seeing. I mean, for me, for us to potentially retest the lows here of 128 and stuff, we of course need to be below 148 essentially, because you know what I'm looking at is this a sort of our swing lows in a sense in our structure from a monthly perspective. So if we are unable to breach this support zone and close below it from a higher time frame, then of course we're not gonna go down. So as long as the structure stays intact, we still should be good for continued upside, so until we're told otherwise. Now of course there will be selling opportunities, you know, as there is near enough every day. But for me, if we get weekly candles closing bearish within this monthly zone, then potentially any sort of pullbacks in could maybe look to test the bottom of the monthly range. Now of course that's higher time frame again, or even maybe monthly candles closing in there, but I'm still very much bullish on price, and I wouldn't be surprised, since we've had this rejection of this resistance, that maybe we can start some form of upside. Whether this monthly flips bullish or not, we don't know. We might end the month strong from a bullish perspective, and the monthly candle still might close bearish, but it might close like a weak bearish candle in that sense. So that's sort of my views from the monthly. If we drop to the weekly time frame, let me just remove this 4 hour resistance here. If we look at this from a weekly, it's even more evident here of this sort of range, and from last week, what I was sort of looking at was this sort of zone here, right? And now that when we pushed up, and this being our breakout candle, this candle here, this was our breakout candle, and then what we did is we formed some form of support in here, and when we rejected the support with that weekly, and then this weekly candle pushed down and we also rejected it, what I was thinking was, if we can hold this support, this might be where we will then get the pullback to for higher support and continued upside, because especially with GJ and like lower time frames, when we break out of areas, we don't always get a retest. You know, retests aren't always guaranteed. So what I was thinking was, is this the move here? We just pull into this zone and then we go. But we've pulled a lot deeper, and we've closed below the support. Of course, albeit the news and stuff that we did have last week was a factor and in why we are where we are. So there is every possibility that this sort of retracement here, we might start to retrace back to where we originally were before the news, because we all know without that news and that sort of fundamental driven price action, we would have remained where we were. So just something to pay attention to. But now that we have come back and we have sort of got this retest, and we are sort of reacting at that, I am still very much bullish. Okay, until we get weekly candles which close below in this sort of range here, then I won't really be looking for shorting opportunities. From a higher time frame perspective, in that sense, because there will potentially be options to sell within like our sessions and stuff. So, but from a higher time frame perspective and looking at like weeklies and stuff, it's kind of just like looking at any other structure. If we get a candle closing within this zone and we have some sort of pullback and we start to react at the zone resistance and we fail to break above and we start to reject, it's obviously going to give you selling opportunities down to the target, and then of course you can target the range lows. But that's what I'm looking at this from a weekly perspective. And of course Friday last week was the day where we did have the bullish daily candle which formed this sort of wick here, which is giving us a support on the daily, which is here. Now of course one let me just remove these. One candle doesn't mean that we're going to go to the upside, you know. However, the sort of structure on the 4-hour time frame within that daily candle on Friday has formed a support and has formed a higher support. So to me that's a stronger sign than just one daily candle which has had just a push up. You know, if we did have, let me just do an example here. Let me just take these off, extended right. So if we had one daily candle, I'll just go to it here. If we had this green bearish or bullish candle, and so the red candles come down here, and then we have formed our support, right? If within this daily candle, you know, the support that formed was just it was just like 4 hours. Let me see if I can just remove this. This is an awful example. Let me just actually delete this. See, it's easier on the Zoom when you don't have to continue to select these. But within this daily, if we had 4 hours that were looking like this, and it was just continued upside, which made this big daily candle, right? It was just a lot of bullish candles. What I would be thinking, what I would like to see within the next daily candle is of course like a higher support, because essentially within the next daily candle it could come bearish and you could just be looking for the higher support within the next daily candle. But within this daily, the higher support has actually already formed, so it has, which obviously gives another level, another like confluence of structure, because if we are going to continue down, we have to break that and we have to close below. So of course, solely looking at this, what I'm seeing is prices pushed up, we've tapped into the daily support, we've pushed up, we've come back down, buying on the support, even we've pushed up, we've failed, news has taken us below the support. So there's every chance the price might just pull up, form a lower resistance in this previous area of structure and continue down, okay? And because essentially with price closing below the support and forming a support, what it's done is it's formed a target, okay? So any sort of resistance, lower resistance, is an opportunity to sell, because essentially what we're doing is we're moving down in the market. Now of course we've reacted where we have because of what's left, but like I said, I'm very much bullish. So in this sort of specific scenario, I would be aware of buying and selling, because if you're trying to buy and you're trying to hold long-term buys, you know, this area is going to be a problem. So that would be a key area for me to pay attention to. But if I drop to the 4 hour, this is what I'm talking about with the higher supports. And I have a level here marked up. If I just amend that, basically what it says there is if we don't break this area, we're going up. So if I just bring on my higher time frame levels, okay, I'll just pop this to the daily again. These are my weekly, monthly, daily support resistances and my zones. So as we can see here, this is the monthly zone that we reacted at to the upside, reacted, and then we finally broke through. We've now came back and we've retested back into this monthly. If I just drop to the weekly here, we can kind of see we have a weekly resistance and a weekly resistance zone that comes up to here, but this is very close to the monthly. So for me, it doesn't make sense to have like another zone on top of the zone when we have already come in and rejected that. So I have shortened that down to the daily, just to be more accurate, and that daily is actually the 2021 highs. So if I just get rid of that, and here's my 4-hour zone. So if you think about coming into a higher time frame resistance zone and rejecting strongly, if we can respect the structure support lows on the 4-hour, the ones that we've currently formed, then we will continue to the upside. So what I'm thinking of is, right, we've already formed a support, we've pushed up, we've pushed down, now we've pushed up, and we've closed above the daily resistance, and we've closed above the daily resistance zone, which is a good sign. And what we've actually done within this candle, as you can see, we've created a bottom wick and we've pushed up. So on the lower time frames, like the 1 hour, 30 minutes, we've actually created another higher support on the lower time frames, which is good. So if I just bring on my clean areas, these are my sort of clean areas where I want to trade between them, and bang on where we are is basically, I took a trade in here on, what day was that? That's the 11th. What day was the 11th? On Wednesday. Yeah, so I took sales in here, trying to capture a move of this clean area to the left, and what that was based on was based on this being our breakout candle. So on the way down, realistically, we should mirror that. So now that we have actually closed back above and we're sort of within that zone, I will be looking to buy in this region. Now, it's obviously going to be a brand new week, okay? So there's every possibility that with the week we open bullish and then we come back down bearish before we go bullish again, or we open bearish and then we go bullish. So I'm expecting some sort of lower wick on the weekly. When that comes, or where it comes, I'm not entirely too sure. So because we are in this area, if price pushes up with the week and it opens, we might get a chance to get some sort of buying opportunities within this zone here. But price then might, in the middle of the week, maybe come back down. We might start to respect maybe some form of structure here, and then as prices maybe pushing up and we start to leave this zone again, that's an awful candle example, excuse me, but if we start to leave that zone again, then I'm going to be buying that, because not only will we be doing that, we'll obviously have daily supports, we will have daily higher supports, and if what we're seeing on the 4-hour is basically what we may have on the daily, in terms of we may have a lower resistance and then we push down, then we have a bullish candle in here which gives us our higher support on the daily, and as we start to leave this zone, we can then look to push up and start that leg up. So if of course we open this week bearish, what I'm looking at is I am looking at these areas to hold. Essentially, I don't want price to break the low of this bearish candle, right? Because that's essentially, like, you could say our swing low on the 4-hour, right? And there is a possibility that we could just range, because the picture perfect opportunity would be price to come down and respect this resistance zone, and then we push up, right? But we know we don't always get those types of trades, so there is a possibility that price can come deeper, right? Now if price comes deeper, it makes buying a little bit more difficult, because the deeper we come, the more chance that these resistance and the resistance zone can act as a resistance and then we can, if we start to react at those levels, we can then just ping about in here, and essentially this would become our weekly range, right? So what I'm looking for is if we can come down and respect this level, we can push up, buys above the daily resistance, we'll target the new target. If we remain above those levels and we're already within this sort of area, come London session on Monday, on Monday, we might get easy buys in here. But of course, if we are expecting a lower wick on the weekly, even if we do get sales in here at the beginning of the week, if we start to push down, see if we start to respect these zones, this is prime buying area. And then of course, when we look to push up, this resistance and this resistance zone, these will be levels I will be paying attention to. You could potentially target these, but what I would be potentially looking for is maybe the overall sort of structure, looking at that and just paying attention to how we react at these levels. So that's sort of my outlook for GJ for the week. I do have my sort of my clean areas marked up. Oops. And of course this is a clean area too, but of course we know what created this. You know, it was news. So and as you can see, looking left, we did have reaction here. So just because we moved through here cleanly on the 11th doesn't mean that we'll do that to the upside. But if we are to sort of retract back to where previous structure was before this happened, then we might look to see if we can come back into the 160s. Sort of downside, I'm not really focusing on too much on downside because I don't really want to be selling within this like old monthly zone. You know, given that we've had so much reaction in here, I don't fancy selling in there. However, if we are able to close below the monthly resistance zone and we can start to, if we say we are heavy bearish, boom, we can write down here dailies are closing below. If dailies are closing below, then we would be below the monthly resistance, right? So what I would be then looking for is any sort of pullbacks in, and we start to respect structure, form lower resistance, target to target, look to push down. Essentially this is a clean move here, but there is levels within that you may have to look in lower time frames and sort of see what type of reaction has been in there to kind of gauge if it is like a potential target area. So I'm not paying too much attention to the downside, but that is what I would be sort of looking for. Now there is every chance you may get downside within the session, options to sell within the session, you know, but I'll sort of be asking myself, well, does it really make sense for me to be selling in here? You know, just say we have bearish candles on the 4 hour leading into the session, right? If I go to the 1 hour, do you really want to be selling in there? Do you know, like, look at all this. Do you know what this reminds me of? This just reminds me of this. When we were in this exact same position last week, at the start of the week, you know, or the previous week, and in here, you know, like, these are the sort of areas you want to be capturing. This clean movement here, you know, like, I don't really fancy trading in there. Like, it's just not for me really. So I may just be looking for sort of higher time frame plays, 1 hour confirmations, 4 hours, and things like that. So that's sort of my weekly outlook on GJ, and that's what I'll be paying attention to. But yeah, I'll get this uploaded, and appreciate you watching.